Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of Popcake's Corner. We're going to end it with a bang by talking about the end of WandaVision. But before we get started, I just want to wish the most happiest and beautiful of birthdays to my co-host and the ever lovely, ever luminescent Anonybob.
I'm your co-host?
Yeah.
I am of equal host status of this show as you are?
Yes.
My name isn't on the billing.
Yeah, because it's my corner, but I value your input. I mean, if it was just mine, you wouldn't be here with me. You know, it's like Ryan Seacrest in the morning, but he has a co-host.
Why don't they talk about his co-host? I sympathize with Ryan Seacrest's co-host. Let's forget that it's my birthday.
Okay.
And let's talk more about this co-host thing.
Yeah. What do you want? I mean, I thought it was clear.
I want equal pay.
There's no
I want
pay.
equal billing.
Well, I mean, there was one blog post that I did that was just all about you, so.
I want more of those.
Well, if you want to write a blog post.
No, I don't want to write them.
Well, then you wrote that one.
I'm the talent.
Okay. This is my corner. I was just trying to wish you a happy birthday.
No, there's no birthdays. That's cheap for what you could be giving me. Equal status.
You know what I'm going to give you?
What's that?
I'm going to let you recap the WandaVision for us.
Oh, okay. I'll recap the WandaVision for you.
Happy birthday.
All right, quick recap
Do
of
it.
WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Wanda wakes up after being asleep for a couple of years. She's sad. Vision's dead. Anyway, she meanders and finds herself the Sword Base, where she meets Hayward.
Mm-hmm.
Hayward basically goads her into trying to resurrect Vision. It doesn't go well there, but she leaves, tracing a...
She goes, I can't feel you.
Yeah, she does touch him a little bit. And they did not do a very good job of cleaning up his body. They basically strew it all over the place. They obviously don't care about this guy. Anyway, she goes to Westview, where Vision had got them a plot of land so they could live together away from all of the Avengers and stuff. But obviously, best laid plans of mice and men. In her sadness and grief, she creates the Hex Bubble, which consumes the entire town and creates a sort of sitcom universe. The sitcom universe, of course, we find out later on, is inspired by her childhood and her early romance with Vision, in which she grew up in Sokovia watching all of these sitcoms with her family. It's got a special place in her heart, and for her, it's a way of preserving the good things of the world by kind of getting rid of the bad. They live in this sort of pseudo-perfect sitcom universe. We go through all of the different sitcoms eras. We meet a lovely character named Agnes, who turns out not to be so lovely. It's revealed that she's Agatha Harkness, and all of the sort of bad things that have happened in the Hex, minus the Hex itself, have been Agatha's doing in an attempt to try and push out Vision and get our girl Wanda all to herself so she could absorb her powers to become a more powerful witch.
Just like she did her coven.
Just like she did her coven. So, Agatha is doing all that stuff. Meantime, Monica Rambeau, she's back. She goes in and out of the Hex a couple of times and becomes a very powerful character. I think Photon or Spectrum.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Yet.
One of those names. She gets powers. She has the ability to basically, it looks like, tune in to different frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum. And that gives her different abilities for different occasions. So she can see the changes in the universe in one way. She can see the magic of Agatha. And in some ways, she can also turn invisible and absorb bullets. That'll come in handy later. We get Fake Pietro. Fake Pietro, it turns out, is nobody. He's just Fake Pietro. He's just Ralph Boner. We found out that Ralph Boner and Fake Pietro were the same guy. That's pretty cool. And then Agatha tries to take Wanda's powers through her children. Oh, yeah. Wanda had children. Oh, my gosh. There's so much.
Billy and Tommy.
Billy and Tommy. Billy and Tommy are both Wiccan and the Speed in the comics. They have abilities that mimic both Wanda and her brother, respectively. And the two of them are captured by Agatha, which Agatha uses to try and get Wanda's powers. Wanda then goes into a battle with Agatha. The two of them duke it out a little bit, and Vision comes back to try and talk Wanda out of this whole hex thing, but he's interrupted because the original Vision's body, we'll call White Vision,
What?
because of the color of him, it comes in and interrupts the whole thing. So evil Hex Vision, who is a clone of the real Vision,
Whoa.
What?
Evil Hex Vision?
I don't know how you read it in any other way. So evil Hex Vision has to fight the White Vision, who's come in to try and stop Wanda from torturing the town, because she absolutely is torturing the town. The two of them duke it out, while the two of Agatha and our girl
Agnes.
Wanda,
Yeah.
they battle it out. Eventually, White Vision is defeated with a logic puzzle. He's asked which one is the real Vision, and then
Theseus.
evil fake Vision uses the ship of Theseus as a philosophical question, which confuses White Vision so much that he just gets sad and goes home, maybe, or somewhere else. We're not sure. And then Agatha is defeated finally because Wanda uses the runes that she learned from Agatha against her. Agatha is turned into a nosy neighbor, which we'll probably pocket and use for later, and Wanda releases everyone from the hex. She also has to say goodbye to her two boys and to Vision because they are intimately tied to the magic of the hex. And it's a very touching scene. And Caitlin, you remember the line perfectly. So what does evil Hex Vision say to Wanda right before he goes?
You mean what does Wanda say to evil Hex Vision?
Yes, both. They're both good.
Well, Vision asks, "What am I?"
Yeah.
And Wanda says, "You're my sadness. You're my hope. But mostly, you're my love."
Yep. And that's
very
WandaVision.
sweet. You forgot. Wanda fully becomes a Scarlet Witch, and
What?
she has the most bitchin' costume.
What?
Probably one of the coolest female costumes that we've seen in the MCU thus far.
It's
Like,
crazy.
It's so cool.
Anyway, so that's WandaVision. She goes off to the WandaGur.
We think it's at WandaVision, yeah.
And
We believe. That's our speculation.
that's everybody's speculation.
Yeah.
And,
It makes the most sense.
and she's sitting there with the Darkhold. Now, with her children and evil Hex Vision completely erased from reality, we are surprised there in an end-credit scene to find out that Tommy and Billy have the ability to commiserate with the good mother Wanda.
And they're like, "Help me!"
Help me! What do I? Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Classic little kid stuff. So that's WandaVision in a nutshell.
How'd you feel about it?
I felt pretty good. Like the ending didn't pay off as much as I wanted to on a few things, and I think that the wild speculation of the internet, mixed with what's his name, Paul Bettany.
Yeah, Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany,
And I'd say a little bit of Elizabeth Olsen.
and Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah.
They goaded us.
Yeah.
They told us that there was going to be a cameo, and then we believed them.
And that was the sad thing is I did not feel like there was going to be a cameo in the beginning, but then he just he did so many interviews where he said it, and then Elizabeth Olsen got in and was like, "Yeah, it's a Mark Hamill level cameo," and I was like, "Oh my god, are they gonna we had so many I know our favorites were either Mephisto,
Magneto.
or Magneto. Magneto, I was really, especially after we got fake Pietro,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh my god, oh, you didn't pay that off. What's fake Pietro's name?"
I already said that. It's Ralph Boner.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah, it's just Ralph Boner.
It's a
Homage to Family Ties? No.
Different Strokes.
Different Strokes.
Growing Pains? No, Different Strokes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because the director of the series was on one of the spin-offs of that show, so that was just an homage to that and his childhood acting career.
Yeah. Talk about selfish. Anyway, the show is great.
Yeah.
Loved the premise of the sitcoms throughout the ages.
If you're going to read the comics, because I went and actually ended up revisiting or reading a lot of the comics surrounding this, I recommend the Wanda and Vision arc. They have it all together, but then also continuing on with the West Coast Avengers, so you can get all of this storyline feels most closely related to this. I know a lot of people were like, House of M. Really, it doesn't have very many House of M vibes. And then just if you wanted something fun to follow this up with, and I say fun, but it's very dark. is the Vision comics. And I believe they're by Tom King, who also has done the Batman series with the whole, like, the Catwoman wedding, all of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
Boom.
highly recommend. Those are the 3 that you should check out, especially if you're like, if it didn't satisfy enough for you.
Do you feel like they were heavily, like, you felt all of the inspiration of those in this, right?
Yeah.
So
Most definitely, but the West Coast Avengers was by far the strongest connection, especially with how it ended and the introduction of White Vision.
Did any of them have the tie-in to the sitcoms, or was that sort of just entirely
that was just,
I
think,
thing?
this concept. Just
That's
like,
cool. I love the high concept of this. I thought it was a really
do
neat
too.
premise.
That was the saddest thing, I think, about episodes 7, 8, and 9, is I felt like they were trying to wrap it up while also dragging it out. That's my only complaint about the series, because I very much loved it. I felt like the ending was a satisfying way of closing Wanda's chapter. I just have a few irritations because I'm worried about how they'll end up portraying her in the future.
Yeah.
Especially now that she finally is the Scarlet Witch. Like, we're finally seeing her as the Scarlet Witch, this Nexus being who has fully unlocked her powers, and now she's trying to learn about them. But I really worry they're going to try to complicate them and play her off as an evil character. Like, I don't think women always have the best handling. Like, they don't get treated the best in these comic stories, especially with the writers and directors behind these series. So
Yeah, it's often that powerful women get too much power, and then they don't know what to do with it.
And then they go
that's
crazy,
how the story
and
goes.
they just can't handle it because
just
they're just so
much.
powerful.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh. Can you imagine? Just like, ugh, my head is spinning.
Yeah, me too. So I am excited and nervous. I kind of want to dive into the original timeline with this a little bit, because obviously a lot of this was supposed to set up Doctor Strange, and at Comic-Con in 2019, they kind of released the scheduling for Phase 4, and Phase 4 has all been messed up now because of the coronavirus. Obviously, the first film was supposed to be Black Widow, and then we were supposed to get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then the Eternals, then WandaVision, and then Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So these were supposed to be at the tail end, these two.
Well, these I would say more middle, because you also are going to have, like, Spider-Man, and, like,
that's right.
there was other TV series, like, this...
But we obviously had a setup that was far more Marvel-y beforehand,
Yes, so
and then now we're kind of...
Phase 4, it looks like, if I was to cap it off, I think the 2023, and we'll go through the new timeline that they're releasing, but 2023, I think, is the cap off of Phase 4.
Gotcha.
But with this was literally, like, they were supposed to be months between Doctor Strange and WandaVision, and now we're almost having this Infinity War Endgame situation now where we're having to wait a year.
Oof.
Yeah, and that kind of sucks, because they left it on such a cliffhanger that I don't know, that's more of my irritation, is the Marvel structure where they do stuff like this and then you have to wait a long time to fully get a better picture of the story.
Right.
And we got this distinct picture of Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch and releasing her grief, and I would say that was probably the big villain of the show, more than Wanda or Agatha Harkness. It was the grief that she felt,
or the evil Hex Vision.
No, evil Hex Vision was great and a good guy.
Okay, I mean, if that's your take on it.
That's not my take. That's just facts.
Okay. I'm not going to fight you on this. I won't fight you on this show, but afterwards we're going to go mano a mano about how he was the bad guy of the story.
Okay, well, that's cute. So I just think it's really interesting. I'm now curious more so how a lot of these are going to feed into each other. Like, I definitely feel like the reason they're doing Falcon and the Soldier next is because they are setting us up for Black Widow, which they refuse to release on Disney Plus.
They don't want to do it.
That's the reason all of this is messed up in the first place. It's because they just refuse to release
movies on Disney Plus.
Well,
don't worry. They can charge $40 a pop for a movie.
I know.
Come on, Disney. Just do it.
And I think we kind of had a discussion about this outside of it, but, I mean, Black Widow doesn't look very good. You said it. I've said it. A lot of the internet kind of feels that way. I know there's a large part of the internet that's excited because we're finally getting a Black Widow movie, and we've had this character in the film for 10 years, so to see some of her backstories.
Yeah, it also sucks, though, because she's also gone.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question is, like, what is going to happen? The biggest theory is that Florence Pugh is going to take over the Black Widow mantle.
She's her sister.
She's her sister.
Okay.
The events of this movie are set after Civil War.
Okay.
Just to give you kind of like a timeline.
All right.
So it's kind of weird because it's like we get Black Widow in Civil War and then we don't see her again until Infinity War.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, filling in that time right there.
Okay.
It's not going to have any connection to WandaVision. I don't think they're going to be connected in any way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were going to release it like a year and a half ago now, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And just the fact that, like, they're keeping it and Falcon and the Winter Soldier so close together, I just think thematically those series are going to, like, I don't know if they'll have much crossover, but I think they'll be very closely connected.
Yeah, I think that, just looking at the two of them, they both seem to have that sort of, like, spy thriller vibe to them. So pairing them together, it's like fish and white wine.
Yeah, that's what. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a worldwide adventure that puts their abilities to the test as they fight anti-patriotism group the Flag Smashers, which was a Captain America villain, but way back in the day.
Okay.
But they're bringing it more as a group compared to, like, it was, I believe, 2 different people in the comics. So.
Gotcha. So they're like a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm not interested at all in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If we watch it before it's all released, I think it's more because there's nothing out right now, so it would just be kind of nice to have some kind of content.
To fill the void.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts, kind of like?
My thoughts on this current timeline or the reshift, or
Do you want me to release what the current timeline is?
Yeah, let's see the current timeline.
Okay, so this is what the MCU, their current release schedule is. So we had WandaVision in January 2021, and then we're going to have Falcon and the Winter Soldier March 19th, 2021. Black Widow May 7th, 2021, depending on theaters. There is a possibility this could get pushed again, but I think they're just going to release it because they're tired of holding on to it.
Yeah.
Loki, June 11th, 2021.
Oh, that's that far away?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But I'm also, and we'll dive into it in a second. Shang Chi, which is July 9th, 2021.
Okay.
And that movie, I'll dive into all of those. I'll do that afterwards. Then we're going to have Eternals, November 5th, 2021.
Is that a TV show or a movie?
That is a movie.
Okay.
This is the movie that has, like, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Angelina Jolie, Kumail Nanjiani, Brian Tyree Hill. I think the guy from Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
And just a lot of Gemma Chan. It's like the big space movie that they made a big deal about for a long time.
Gotcha.
And I'm actually pretty excited about it because I don't know a lot about the Eternals.
Yeah, it's what made Kumail get buff, right?
Yeah, he got super... And I love a lot of the actors that they have in it. We've watched them in a lot of things, so...
It sounds like they're going to go with a pretty comedy vibe. Is it going to... I mean, it feels like they have more comedic actors in there.
I don't know.
That's
a great question.
Kit Harington is one of the funniest guys I know.
Then there is going to be Spider-Man, December 17th, 2021.
Okay.
And then between these they're going to be releasing the Hawkeye's TV series as well, and Miss Marvel. Both of those are supposed to be slated to release.
Is the Hawkeye TV series, it's about his daughter more than it is about him?
No, it's not about his daughter. It's about Kate Bishop.
Who's Kate Bishop? I thought that was his daughter.
No, just
some girl.
Yeah, Clinton Barton, Kate Bishop.
Gotcha.
I definitely feel like they are setting up the Young Avengers, which we already talked about in our last WandaVision episode. So I think this is going to play into that. We're setting up Kate Bishop, but we'll dive into that more later. Then our first movie in 2022 is going to be Doctor Strange.
Okay.
In the Multiverse of Madness. Then Thor. Then Black Panther 2. And then Captain Marvel 2 to cap off the year.
Is Black Panther 2 going to be about his sister now?
That's kind of the thought. What I'm more confused about now is they're doing this, and obviously it's not going to be about T'Challa.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also going to have a Wakanda TV series.
Okay.
And I'm curious how those are going to differ unless they really are setting up Shuri to take on the Black Panther mantle, which I think people would be okay with for the most part. Because Shuri was a really cool character.
Yeah.
And then they have 4 dates for 2023 that they have not connected to yet.
Okay.
And those movies are likely to be Ant-Man 3, Blade, Fantastic Four, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Gotcha.
And then for TV shows that we're waiting for dates on, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Ironheart, Armor Wars, Secret Invasion, and Wakanda.
Okay.
So that's kind of, that is Phase 4, I believe.
Gotcha. Okay. So both She-Hulk, Ironheart, those two, are we assuming that they're probably going to be young Avengers as well? The two of them? Or is She-Hulk already casted as an older Avenger?
She-Hulk is Tatiana Maslany.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a teenager.
No, I'm actually quite excited for that show because this is a household that loves Tatiana Maslany.
Orphan Black is an awesome show.
Such a good show.
And Tatiana Maslany kills it as basically the show.
I think it's been teased a little bit that Mark Ruffalo might be in that show.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Seeing as he's the other
Hulk character. Yeah. So I'm excited for it, even though I don't necessarily, I don't know a lot about the Hulk universe.
Yeah.
I've never found him a super interesting character.
What?
But
You don't like the Hulkverse?
No.
It's kind of like the Spider-Verse, but Hulk.
Yeah, but I love the I mean, everyone loves the Spider-Verse. It's Peter Parker and all the extensions of that are easier characters to fall in love with. Side note, I'm actually quite pumped about this. They're doing their alternative timeline stories, and they're doing a Gwen Stacy one, and they're basically making her Marvel's Batgirl for this little special edition. And
that's cool.
Pretty pumped about it because if you know me, my favorite comic character is Batgirl. So, and I love Gwen Stacy, as you can see. There she is, right there.
Boom, got her.
Along with my WandaVision Funko Pops.
Editor zoom in.
Zoom in.
Enhance.
It's gonna be such a blurry little.
We're gonna really zoom in though.
So I'm very, very excited to read that, but that's a side note. Going back to the timeline. So we're obviously going to see the ramifications of WandaVision, but the movies that I think we won't really get any more details. I think they're in Spider-Man 3. I think it's very much going to be a tease of the multiverse, but I don't think we're going to put Wanda's name on it because I think Doctor Strange 2 is really going to hit on all of the WandaVision stuff. Just so everyone knows, this was a leaked premise for Doctor Strange 2. And by an audition company backstage, someone just leaked it. The premise for it, and this has been out for a while, you can see it on, it's on Wikipedia, but they have the link for the Digital Spy, which has it linked to the backstage stuff, which is for auditions, is Doctor Strange's continued research on the Time Stone is hindered by a friend turned enemy, resulting in Strange unleashing unspeakable evil.
That's curious to me, that synopsis.
Yeah, it's a very curious synopsis. It could go one of two ways because if you remember how Doctor Strange 2 ended, or Doctor Strange ended in the post-credit scenes, they had, let me look up his name. The one guy that was his friend, kind of.
He was just there while he was learning.
Yeah.
So what?
Baron Mordo.
Mordo?
They had him kill the guy that Doctor Strange had saved, the Benjamin Bratt's character.
Yeah.
Because he was time shouldn't be used in that way.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this split thing, because a lot of people were like, oh, that's who it's about. But we knew that Elizabeth Olsen was a part of this film as soon as they announced that. They announced that at the Comic-Con that they released the original Phase 4 timeline. But knowing stuff with WandaVision now, and this is what makes me worry a little bit, is I feel like it's heavily going to lean on that. Now, do I think she's going to be the main villain? No. Obviously, I think by the end of the film, I think she's going to be back with them, but she wants her kids.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to really lead into
it's going to motivate her to be positioned. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other characters like Agatha who see that she's very powerful and also not necessarily in full understanding of what her powers are. And I think that that's going to be kind of an inciting incident, that somebody's going to lead her down the path of opening the door. It's all fine. We'll just like pull the kids out. But the door doesn't close.
Yes. So that is what I think. I think with that description, I totally think that is about Wanda now. And I think it's kind of funny because I don't think a lot of people have really talked about that still.
Yeah, well, hang on. I wanted to bring something up
Yeah,
earlier because you said that his further investigation with the time stone, he doesn't have the time stone anymore, does he? All of the stones are gone because Thanos snapped them out of existence.
Yeah.
And then Captain America took the ones that we pulled back from time where they were supposed to be.
That's a good question.
So how could he have access to the time stone unless he's cheating? And he also, like, in the past, he was like, I know this is going to happen. So when he comes and gives me the stone back, then I'll just remember that it's going to happen and fast forward to give myself the stone in the future.
Or if I could play on this further.
Yeah.
It says investigate. He's like, what did it say? His research on the time stone. It doesn't say he has the time stone. It says his research on the time stone. So my theory is
maybe
just
he's trying
like,
to make another time stone.
No, what I was gonna say is because we know that Wanda's kind of messing with the multiverse. We know that's what she's doing, and I'm just kind of curious if, like, him trying to interfere and her messing with it causes this explosion.
Possibly.
Like, that's what I think.
Yeah.
So.
Or they could have been giving people a false narrative for the actual interview.
Yes.
And none of this means anything.
So what I think, and we'll see, because I think most of Spider-Man's, because it is partly owned by Sony, most of their, after the credit scenes, have teased further Spider-Man or Sony films.
Yeah.
But I am curious just because this one is so closely linked. Like, WandaVision, so it's like, here's Spider-Man, here's WandaVision, and here's Doctor Strange, like, in the middle. Like, they're so all closely connected. I think Spider-Man is going to tease a lot of this stuff. I don't think Elizabeth Olsen is in Spider-Man 3, though. Obviously, it's the one that they have been the most tight-lipped on. Like, when I was researching a lot of this stuff, like, the big thing was it's a continuation from Spider-Man Far From Home.
Whoa.
That's it.
So you think we're going to pick up? So a couple questions. One, so WandaVision, obviously, it got moved way up in the timeline.
Yeah.
So it does beg the question of, are we going to genuinely have a multiverse showing in Spider-Man? It's the first film franchise that we have coming up that has a history of it.
Yeah.
And two, do you think that we're going to pick up like exactly where we left off? Like Peter Parker's sitting on a street lamp and what was his name? Mysterio reveals that he's Peter Parker. Like, do you think we're going to pick up at that exact moment, or do you think that we're going to be a few days down the line or something like that?
That's it. So I just want to go back a little bit. The reason why I think that they picked WandaVision to open Phase 4 is because I think they thought it was the strongest of their content.
You think it was the strongest? They thought that it was the strongest.
Yeah.
It seems like they were so afraid that people wouldn't understand it.
There was that, but I just feel like they know that both Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow wasn't going to draw as much intrigue. So I feel like they knew that WandaVision was like, it was going to get people interested.
That's true.
I think it was
everybody talks about it, and nobody understood. Like, everybody was like, "What the hell is this?"
I know.
From the get-go. I do think that people were really turned off by the sitcom thing. It was something I loved, but I think a lot of people who come to expect Marvel to be big shooty movies were disappointed to find that there were no big shooties, except at the end.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. There was a lot of 50-50, and I think that's even what we've seen from the end. My nitpick of the series is they did a lot to tease like all of these bigger things, and I feel like they did that to tease for future films. I feel like they were doing a lot to tease for Doctor Strange, and obviously in the 4th episode where they were like, where Tyler Hayward was like, yeah, we had a lot of these characters get lost in space and stuff like that. I think that was a tease for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff that teased a lot of things, so we expected more, especially with Paul Bettany. We were like, oh my God, there's
so much stuff we could do.
I think potentially Doctor Strange could have been in the end of this series, but he was in New Zealand most of apparently during this time because of COVID.
Gotcha.
So that's why I don't think we ended up seeing Benedict Cumberbatch at all.
Yeah, they should just make a small New York set there.
Yeah.
So that, in the event that we have a global pandemic again, we can just go to New Zealand to shoot movies and stuff.
I mean, that's...
New Zealand can be like it's the new Georgia. It's where we shoot all the New York stuff now. We can just shoot it there.
Yeah. So I feel like that's why we didn't see, because in the comics, Doctor Strange and especially in those West Coast Adventures, Doctor Strange and Wanda have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
Because they both have, the magic aspect.
Their connection with that.
And they also did this thing where they brought up at the end of WandaVision with the Darkhold that she is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So they've done a lot.
Point of that.
They've done a lot. Like, they have a very close relationship in the comics, and I think him not being able to sense her powers, like, it just seems a little silly. Because
I think it was plot convenience, or we're gonna have what was going on with him was happening simultaneously.
I am upset that this is released and we don't get Doctor Strange for another year.
Yeah, it is frustrating
because that is such a slow burn. But that's where I think Spider-Man comes in. And
well, let's talk about, because this is a show that I'm really excited for. Let's talk about the Loki show.
So Loki show, I'm not. So here's the description of the Loki show. Originally, I thought it was going to tie in like we would see, but now I don't think so.
Okay.
The description of the Loki show is Loki is brought to the mysterious Time Variance Authority after stealing the Tesseract, which happened in Avengers Endgame, and travels through time, altering him in history and ending trapped in his own crime thriller.
Okay.
That is the description of Loki.
Well,
the fact that it was released like in the original time schedule, because I only talked about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to come out afterwards with no hard time date, along with Hawkeye and Thor of Love and Thunder.
Okay, so it was supposed to be more later on in the series, but they moved it up. Okay, well, I guess for me, the Time Variance Authority seems like this shadowy organization that has some sort of like British goofy bureaucracy vibes. And so I really thought that was going to be something that tied into this, that they have been dealing with a multiverse thing for a while now. Yeah. And now they just have to go in every now and then and tweak the numbers so that the universe ends up where it's supposed to. And we don't have deviants such as our boy Loki leading it down paths that lead to a great deal of harm to the timeline of the universe.
Similar to Thor, it kind of sucks because this Loki is now not the Loki who has learned all those lessons and has become the Loki that we loved. We're going back to the first Avengers Loki.
Yeah.
And similar, so it's just like both him and Thor, they just keep getting reset.
Yeah.
I am wondering, so I feel like out of all the TV series, this one is going to be the most standalone.
I could see that.
But I'm also curious if we'll see it tie in at all to Thor, Love and Thunder. And I only say this because you remember in Thor Ragnarok, they had like the scenes acting out and there was Matt Damon as Loki.
Yes. Yeah.
So Matt Damon is going to be in Thor and Love and Thunder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm very curious about that. I'm wondering if that's a tease of anything. We also know, I believe that there was like fake Thor and Loki's on the Loki set.
Okay.
So I'm very curious because I don't know, it's a weird thing. And I like I said, I think it's going to be the most standalone, but I am wondering if we're going to end up using it to get Loki back into Thor.
I totally see that. I think I see the Loki TV show doing two things. One, I see us basically we get to go on this zany adventure where we have the Time Variance Authority, and he kind of plays as a time cop. It reminds me of the scene from Rick and Morty where they break time. Yeah. And they have the weird look almost like testicles people come in. And so I feel like it's sort of a play on that thing where you have people come in who play that role. And then and I think that'll be fun in and of itself. But the other thing is I think that it will probably do what you think and get Loki back into the main timeline of the Avengers and everything else. He's a character that people like too much to just let him be dead. Yeah. And I think the other thing that it's going to do is I think it's going to get this Loki up to speed with our Loki. I think that this is going to teach him the lessons that he needs to learn to be the good guy Loki again, rather than having to go through another round of him dying fakely in the Thor universe like 6 times before he's like, you know what, I can be a good person.
Yeah, and I'm excited because they're doing a lot of they tease, like they have the like Loki running for office, which was a comic book series.
Mm-hmm.
And although I never read it, I bought it for one of my dearest friends who loves Loki. And,
is that Alex?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that play out because I thought that was a really interesting, and that show looks crazy, and it and WandaVision, like from the get-go, were the ones from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. From the get-go.
I was most excited about.
Well, I think, yeah, now that you say it, I'm not disappointed, but I could totally see it being a standalone thing. Yeah. But that's okay, because again, like, the premise of it is something that I've basically read in so many different sci-fi novels, and also it just feels like a goofy British premise.
It does.
And so I like what it's got said. I like its bones. I'm gonna be honest. It feels like it's got really good bones. So I'm excited about that. Okay, well, cool. Then I'm not worried. Let's forget Loki. We're done with it. It's over. Falcon, Winter Soldier, we're done with it. It's over. Yeah. All of it, we're done. So we're back to Spider-Man again. So Spider-Man, you say that's going to be our first foray into the multiverse.
Yes, I think so. The Spider-Mans are such a huge deal for the MCU. Yeah. On his own, Spider-Man can compete with an Avengers film. He can bring in so much money. Mm-hmm. And so many people are excited for this one because there's been the rumor of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield being in these films.
And the more confirmed rumor of the villains from those series definitely being in the movie.
So if there's one thing for sure, it definitely seems like the multiverse is opening up for a Sinister Six in this film, which is awesome.
Either that or Doc Ock just happens to look a lot like Doc Ock in this universe too.
No, I really feel like they're gonna end up pulling these from other universes.
Yeah.
I strongly feel like we're going to get Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back, especially since it's called No Way Home.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a tease that they're all kind of trapped. They obviously really want this Spider-Verse concept because it killed in the animated form.
Yeah.
Even if that movie didn't deliver in the original box office, it has far delivered outside of it. And I think it's just because people, A, didn't know about it because Sony did a terrible job promoting it.
Yeah.
And B, didn't understand what it was about.
Yeah, and an animated movie is just never going to do as well as a live
animated
action
film.
Yeah.
But it is such a, like, when you talk about Spider-Man films, it is by far the best.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
So they obviously want to copy this, and there's such a love. Like, people have been wanting them to bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. People can say whatever they want. I know there's someone who's like, we don't care about Andrew Garfield. We care about Andrew Garfield.
Well, I would say that they're like poised because this is probably the only franchise that they could reasonably do this with.
Yes.
Like the only other one that has a backlog of Batmans is Batman.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of those old Batmans are kind of old now.
Mm-hmm. Although apparently they're bringing back Michael Keaton for the Flash movie.
Well, I'm cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Look, if they want to have Michael Keaton be old Bruce
Batman.
Wayne, and they do
a Batman Beyond movie.
Oh my God. I want it. I want it so bad.
Batman Beyond is so good. And I'm so sad. And that's what I know, like, a lot of the directors of this series, because Warner Brothers just seems like really hesitant to invest in it, probably because it was an animated series.
I don't understand.
But people want it. Give it to us.
That and Static Shock, please. Thank you.
Yes, Static Shock. Oh, well, Static Shock, I think, is already moving forward.
Well, thank God.
Yeah.
I've wanted that movie for, ever since I saw that.
Yeah, Static Shock is so good. The fact that it hasn't, like,
Batman
ever
Beyond
come back.
Static Shock. And then I want to do the Static Shock Batman Beyond crossover episode that they did that one time.
I know.
And Static Shock was an old man in it. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I love it.
So good.
Anyway.
Obviously, you can see that we were big Warner Brothers.
Look, Saturday morning cartoons back in the early 2000s, They rocked it.
They did. And
They
it was
killed
also one of those things, like, coming after school, they always played reruns. So it was the best.
Well, after school, I was a Dragon Ball Z guy on Toonami, but
Oh.
To each their own.
Yeah, I loved watching the reruns of these shows. I loved Static Shock, and I loved Batman Beyond. And the Pokemon.
And Pokemon. Yeah.
Anime, yeah.
We had it all.
Yeah, we had it all. So getting back to, you were saying, yes, the Spider-Man has a huge collection, but more than anything, is Spider-Man is this film, like, people, I don't feel like people, WandaVision, Scarlet Witch, Vision, they're kind of smaller properties, but obviously they've blown up because there was nothing else on this time.
Right, yeah. They're household names now.
Same with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was one of the weaker performing of the MCU films. I also think it's one of the worst. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, he came at a time when the MCU was already, like, packed full of, like, characters that were of equal interest. And then, the movie itself, it just felt so fast to get him to be so powerful.
Yes.
And so that was, I don't know. But Iron Man is sort of a similar, like, storyline as far as, like, what happened with the character. But the big thing to me is, like, Iron Man, at the end of the day, he's incredibly powerful and cool, but he's not the Sorcerer Supreme. So
yeah.
I think that, I don't know, they went too fast with Mr. Strange.
So I think they are very much going to be using Spider-Man as the connector to really tie this in.
Mm-hmm.
And because, so just timeline-wise, to keep people, it was like WandaVision in like actual...
the original timeline.
Like actual like life timeline.
Oh, okay.
WandaVision is happening like October, November 2023.
It's immediately after.
It's like 3 weeks after the events of
Endgame.
Endgame. Then you have Spider-Man Far From Home, and that's like just a little bit after.
That's in like the summer of...
Is it the summer?
Yeah, because it's a summer school trip to Europe?
I guess that's true. I thought for some reason it was like in December. But you're right. Because I thought it was in 2023 as well. Will you look it up real quick?
Yeah, I can.
But I think, because it also explains like why Wanda's away and learning all about the Darkhold. Like, it could take her this long to really uncover everything and figure out how to get her twins. Because we don't know how far away that cabin scene was. How long has she been doing this and trapping herself away from society? We don't quite know that yet.
So it is the summer of 2024, actually.
Okay, it's the summer 2024. Okay, so I think that Spider-Man No Way Home is directly, like what you were asking, I think it is directly after Spider-Man Far From Home.
Okay.
Like, I think these are like, it's like, there's no time. We're
picking up. He's still on that light pole.
Yes, especially because they just unveiled that Peter Parker, that's what Mysterio did, was unveil that Peter Parker, a high schooler, was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then I think Doctor Strange is picking up right after that. Like, it's like boom, 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 boom. And they do that quite a bit. That's what it's like. These are usually one right after the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, we will definitely see.
So WandaVision was in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That's what okay. And so this is basically a year later.
Yeah.
Now.
And you could
Spider-Man.
say, she's taken like a year to learn about her powers.
Yeah, she's gotten real tough by this point.
Yeah. And just because Spider-Man is the biggest property of these three,
you think
I think they're really going to rely on it to set this up. And I don't know if we'll see a lot of WandaVision, but I think we'll see the start of the multiverse and what that means.
Okay. So here, theory. All right.
Okay.
Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He is the friend that Doctor Strange is going to have to deal with in his movie.
No.
Wrong. So, hear me. Whoa, before you say no. Spider-Man obviously needs to go to hide someplace. He doesn't have Iron Man, Big Daddy Iron Man, to take care of him anymore. So where does he go? He goes to the next best Avenger that he knows, Doctor Strange. He goes there, he messes with stuff in the mysterious sanctum place, and he ends up unleashing something awful, and including himself in the multiverse. Boom. Now he's got to deal with his problems, and he kind of becomes a megalomaniac because he really likes the power that the multiverse gives him. And then Loki, the Scarlet Witch, and Thor and Captain America's back, by the way, and
Could be.
Doctor Strange. They all come kick Spider-Man's butt back to the multiverse.
I don't think Tom Holland has been confirmed for Doctor Strange. Also, this is technically Tom Holland's last Spider-Man film.
Oh,
this is all they have.
Oh,
now
yeah, because he's only got contracted out to this
for 3. Now, do I think they're going to extend it? Yes, Spider-Man's just too big of a character
Yeah.
to lose. But that also relies a lot on the Sony deal, and Disney is a bully, so
We'll see.
We'll see.
And Sony wants to play hardball, but they've got no chips to like bet. So
yeah,
they're just like, yeah, we'll take 30% of Spider-Man, and they're just gonna have to take
and all
that.
the merchandising rights, which is like one of the biggest aspects of the.
And Disney's like, and he takes a cigar out. I don't think so.
Oh, sorry, no, sorry. Merchandising rights is Disney's like, yeah, we want the merchandising rights.
Yeah,
She.
Disney's like a mafia boss.
Yeah. The way that they used the internet to gang up on Sony last year kind of irritated me.
Yeah.
So.
Look, 2 big companies duking
Not that
it out.
I wouldn't.
It's not like anybody's hurting, but at the same time, come on.
Because that's one of those things as well. Like, if you're glad that Tom Holland that Spider-Man is part of the MCU, you can thank a large part of that to Andrew Garfield, who constantly fought for it. It's part of the reason that, he also isn't around as much as there's so many stories out there. But if you can go back to interviews, and he was constantly fighting for that, and it was something that you can see, like, with the studio heads, Amy Pascal is not, I wouldn't say she's someone that you should praise and hold up on a pedestal. But same with Disney, they're definitely using a lot of the Spider-Man things. There's just a lot, I think, I just don't put faith in either of these big companies.
Why does us, the consumer, have to just get ran around by these big companies? They're making deals and wheeling and dealing, and we're the ones that suffer. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's why we're releasing our own Spider-Man
This
movie.
is also what I'm getting at, is why I don't think they're going to have Wanda in Spider-Man.
Because they don't want to do too much crossover.
They don't want to do too much crossover in China. This is definitely going to be a movie that they want to release in China. And just because of that, there's not going to be like a lot of mention of magic. You can pull the multiverse aspect, but magic, witchcraft, that's just like stuff that China doesn't
play ball with.
So it is going to have a connection to WandaVerse. It's definitely going to drive a lot of people to go and watch WandaVerse so they can understand what's happening in Doctor Strange. But they're going to be very, like, I feel vague about it. Like, it's just going to be maybe mentions and stuff, but the multiverse is going to be very present in this.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of
That's your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's kind of what I see playing out with Phase 4 with Marvel. Obviously, Captain Marvel 2 is also going to play into this, but it's going to be more of the Monica Rambeau side effect. As well as some Miss Marvel TV show.
How powerful do you think she is? Do you think she is...
I can't tell. She seems super powerful right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, we haven't seen her be offensive in any way.
That's true.
I mean, she's very, like, she's almost like a turtle in that nobody can touch her and she can see all the bad stuff.
And then at the same time, we saw, like, fake Pietro still, like, be able to push her around and everything.
Yeah, so it's hard to say. She's also still cutting her teeth on her new powers.
She is.
So.
But I'm excited to see her play out. The last film that I think is really going to deal with a lot of this because I think there's obviously a space versus reality, is Ant-Man 3, which is going to have King the Conqueror, who's another kind of, like, Nexus level being.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because they have Jonathan Majors as King, who he was in Lovecraft County.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So I'm excited to see him in the MCU. And obviously they're gonna be dealing with the Quantumanium. They've already released the title of that and everything. If I had to guess, it's probably gonna be the May or July film because that's typically when they release Ant-Man films. So
he's more of a summer movie.
Yeah, they always view I really like the Ant-Man films, but I feel like they always get kind of viewed as more of the summer movies.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, their Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or Fantastic Four is going to be their November release, and I think Blade's going to be their February.
That makes sense. Blade he kind of goes with that horror thing that we've been doing in February. So.
Yeah, so.
Well, I'm excited for all this stuff.
I am too.
I think that this is I like the idea of multiverses. It makes everything so complicated so quickly, and it's a beautiful mess. But it also means that all theories are correct.
Yes.
So we're not wrong on anything going forward. It just means that the version that we saw on TV was just didn't. Our version still exists somewhere. It's just not the one that Disney picked. So.
Well, I was gonna say it just exists in a different multiverse.
Exactly. But Disney can only film one multiverse at a time. Now, our feeble human brains just can't do all of them at once. But the beauty of it is that we have the internet and our own imaginations, and that means that while we might be limited in our ability to sense other realities all at once, we still get to feel them on the inside.
So, I think that's an excellent way of ending. I'm excited to see. I'm usually a very big critic of the MCU. There's a lot of these films that I don't think I'm going to enjoy. But in the realms of WandaVision and exploring the multiverse, I'm excited to see it. I definitely think they're setting up the Young Avengers. So I'm also very pumped to see that. And yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Well, before we go, just as a reminder, or as I mentioned, this is our season finale of Popkate's Corner. We're going to take a short break so we can focus on some gameplays. We're probably going to be releasing some Valheim gameplays for, Anonybob. That's his birthday present. That's his series.
I get to play a game that I like.
You get to play a game that you like.
Look at me.
I know, you're so cool. And then we're also going to be continuing our co-op series. We're going to be finishing up Knights and Bikes. And then we have a whole collection of games that we want to play that we're going to release for the channel. Because our co-op journey is usually what we enjoy doing together. And we want to share that with all of you guys and hopefully introduce some indies that you haven't heard of or you always wanted to try but never saw in action. And maybe you'll get to bond with some of those games. And then, of course, we have Pokemon Snap coming out. So we have a whole host of content. There's just kind of a lull in nerd culture. So we're going to take a break here and focus on our gameplays because we miss doing those. And then I'll let you guys know when Popkate's Corner Season 2 is coming out. And we'll be excited to talk to you guys.
Woo!
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 Maybe in June when Loki's coming out again.
Possibly. We could do that.
Because I feel like that's, all of the game conferences are going to be coming out and we can finally talk about games again because I miss video games and I just feel like there hasn't been a ton that we've been interested in.
We could always talk about Mario Golf.
Yeah, we could. All right. Thank you so much for joining us and we'll see you next week with the gameplay. We hope you enjoyed our WandaVision discussion and theories for the MCU. Another happy birthday to the beautiful and lovely Anonybob. And we'll see you next time. Bye.